Since you say that you think the powers that be just want him to die in prison, do you think that that has anything to do with allowing him to get married in prison? I don't know. It just makes me think like maybe they're just like, we'll throw him a bone, makes us feel like we can sleep at night because we'll just let him get married, and I don't know. Then we feel better about ourselves or something.
So from the perspective of a prisoner, I can absolutely see why he would want to do that, because it gives him more and better visitation with his family, with his partner. He gets to see his kids more. That's the impetus for doing it, I would imagine. And there may be some more sentimental reasons behind it. I don't know. I'm not privy to those conversations. But from a like purely I'm locked up and I'm in jail standpoint, I would want to do it based on that alone, because I get better visitation out of it. Now, the court granting it, there is 100, they would have to invent new justifications in order to deny it. And it was probably one of those well, we're already making up a number of new laws to extradite him. We've basically dismantled the free press universally. Yeah, maybe we can let him go ahead and get me. We can always deny the visitation later.
Mm-hmm. Well, because Stella Morris, his fiance, wrote that the government backed down 24 hours before the deadline. Julie and I now have permission to marry in Belmarsh prison. I am relieved but still angry that legal action was necessary to put a stop to the illegal interference with our basic right to marry. So it does sound like they really kind of were put through the ringer to get to that point. I don't know anything about how hard it is to get married in prison. So I don't know what they were treated with compared to others.
There are, as with any legal proceeding, there are ways to challenge it or block it. And yeah, at every step, those were thrown at them. But there's no actual legal way to override what they were seeking. There's no justification on paper for it. They threw everything they could to prolong it. This has been described as the process is the punishment by Julian himself a decade ago. So there's a definite element of that to continue the punishment by process. But I honestly don't know if that's atypical. I honestly don't know if the UK justice system does that with everyone who's trying to get married, because they could just on principle be like an insurance company and deny everyone as a rule off the bat. I don't know.
You were explaining some of the reasons you think that Julian would have wanted to get married. I'm sure that these reasons existed before. Have you heard anything? And maybe, again, you should explain, I forgot to do this at the beginning for people who are new, like the work you've done with the movement to free him. But is anybody talking about why now? Like, why did something precipitate this? Why now?
Well, okay. In the first place, I have been a national organizer for a group called Action for Assange since 2019. We put on a number of events all over the country and have helped cross-coordinate events all over the planet on behalf of the proliferation of free speech and a free press, hinging around the freedom of Julian Assange, because that case represents the death of investigative journalism. It represents the death of all activism, regardless of what your cause is, because you don't get to advocate for things and have that succeed if you never get to leave your bubble, if your ideas never get to leave the bubble. So if you have a completely controlled, captured press, all information is contingent upon the whims of the state. And I don't like that very much. So that's why I do what I do.
Did you say why you think right now they want to get married?
So it's a thing that they've been going for well over a year now. Once the extradition was denied and then bail immediately was denied, and they knew that he wasn't going to leave, that started the impetus for, okay, well, I guess we're going to have a prison wedding.
I see.
And then after that, it's paperwork and legal argy-bargy and wrestling it. But I think that there was a sense that, well, I may die here, so I may as well do the thing.
I'm curious what you think now related to the press with what's happening between Russia and Ukraine and the United States sort of pointing fingers, you know, even as our companies especially, like, deplatform, take off RT, or take folks, you know, with Russian influence out of search results and whatnot. And I'm watching, I think it was a CBS News clip where the guy's like, you know, but we have a free and open press. You know, Putin must be winning the information war because, you know, these poor Russians, like, they just, you know, they only have what the government lets them see. And I'm sitting there like, you know, I get a lot of pushback on this. Like, what's different having, you know, it's not the same as having an authoritarian dictator, you know, state-owned press and what we have. Of course, yes, ours is biased, ours is influence, but it's not the same. They're, you know, we're still better off. I just throw that to you because I'm just curious what you think about it now, like with the work you've done on the Assange case. What do you think about our government and our press? And then, like, you know, as we're pointing fingers across the world, I just find it so interesting that I think it just still seems more and more like, am I living in some kind of vortex where maybe I'm just overly cynical? I don't know, but I feel like before we start pointing fingers, we should probably turn it back towards ourselves for a little bit. Before we get to the rest of this video, are you anxious about the future of the press in the United States or around the world? Well, you should grab yourself a nice glass of Malbec and relax. Go to AllisonWinePromo.com and get 50% off of my favorite Malbecs from Argentina, one from almost 9,000 feet, an extreme altitude Malbec, and one from the oldest vineyard in Argentina. So 50% off the wine itself and 50% off shipping. These are new bottles of wine. If several months ago you also went to Allison Wine Promo, which thank you for doing that if you have, these wines also use no filtering, no flavoring, no dyes, and no excess chemicals. And like I said, the high altitude wines especially give the wine a very unique, robust flavor. So go check out AllisonWinePromo.com. But if you prefer a cup of coffee or tea, actually made from coffee fruit, go to twinenginecoffee.com/Allison. That's twinenginecoffee.com/Allison. You can get a wide variety of high altitude Nicaraguan coffees and also a Caturra tea, which is tea that you brew using the coffee fruit. And that's what I do. I usually brew mine for about 24 hours cold brew in the fridge, and it's quite good. But I love the coffee as well. So twinenginecoffee.com/Allison, AllisonWinePromo.com, and support free speech, whatever you're drinking.
We did this on the morning show yesterday, where we typed in something into a Google search bar, and it was a headline in the paper that pasta gets delivered. A local paper here, I can't remember which one. Anyway, AP headline. And then we typed it into the Google search bar just to see. And there was page after page of an identical headline from all of these supposedly not state-run outlets. The difference between U.S. media capture and a state-run outlet like, for example, the BBC, is that we have a fusion of corporation and state here that isn't advertised. It's not part of our marketing. U.S. economic fascism, where Facebook, Google, you know, to whatever degree Apple is and does cooperate, those guys, where big tech is effectively the government, where the military industrial complex and the pharmaceutical industry that own the senators and own the Congress critters are the marketing behind the media, where the CEOs of just a very small number of media outlets run 95 to 99% of the media, where independent media like us is push to new and emergent platforms because the established ones are effectively government outlets and won't let us broadcast there. You know, it's easy to be like, yeah, there's an independent press here. Sure, you have to jump through hoops to see it. Sure, if you talk about it to your friends, people look at you like you got 8 heads growing out of you because it's out of their realm of reality. But technically, and anytime you got somebody going, well, technically, that means you're relying on the most thin interpretation in order to make your point. And if you have to do that, you have to recognize that what you've done is brought a bunch of weak sauce to the argument.
This is just a short clip of a full video that has basically been sanitized so it can fly under the radar on YouTube. If you want to see the entire conversation that we had or the entirety of the commentary that you're watching, please go to one of my other platforms. One of the best places to go is AlisonMorrow.locals.com, where you can become part of my editorial board and pose questions ahead of time for interviews. I also do live editorial board meetings on Saturdays. You can bring your feedback and pose ideas for guests and topics for the week to come, and you get exclusive content. So go to AlisonMorrow.locals.com. But whatever you do, don't stay here on YouTube. If you want the full truth about what's happening around us, you gotta go somewhere else.